your job disappears the same way Sam Altman's did. Without warning, without a vote, without a reason they are required to give you. November 17th, 2023, Las Vegas, Formula One race weekend. Sam Altman, the man who handed your family ChatGPT, the man Time magazine called the most important technologist alive, receives a video call. 4 board members, 12 minutes. He is fired from the company he built before the call ends. His phone crashes immediately, not from the news, from the volume of messages flooding in the moment the announcement goes public. The employees who built every tool now sitting on your brother's laptop, they have no explanation. Their stock options, their mortgages, the equity deal signed in good faith, all of it is suspended in the air with no answer attached. Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, the man whose company injected $13 billion into OpenAI, finds out through a press release, not a call, not a warning, a press release. Ilya Sutskever, the co-founder who cast the deciding vote to fire Altman, stands in front of the staff 30 minutes later and cannot explain why. And then Helen Toner, one of the 4 board members who pulled the trigger, tells the executives screaming for answers something that stops every room cold. Destroying the company could in fact be consistent with the mission. Let that land for a moment. The safety board, protecting you from the danger by burning everything down. To understand what just happened, you need to go back to 2015, because the coup of November 2023 was not an accident. It was the inevitable collision between 2 irreconcilable ideas that were bolted together and called a company. Nick Bostrom wrote a book called Superintelligence. The core argument is this: imagine your family raises a chicken. Now imagine the chicken becomes smarter than every human being who has ever lived, combined. What does the chicken do with the farmers? The founders of OpenAI read that book and took it literally. They built a non-profit in 2015 for one explicit reason. No single person, no single government, no corporation should control the technology that could make humanity irrelevant. They turned down Google's money specifically because Google shareholders would eventually demand profit over safety. By 2019, they needed capital to compete, so they invented a structure that had never existed. A for-profit subsidiary, capped returns, limited upside, sitting beneath a non-profit board that held one single power above everything else: the power to fire the CEO anytime, no reason required. That board was the safety switch on a loaded weapon. Then Microsoft arrived with $13 billion. And a loaded weapon with $13 billion behind it is no longer just a weapon. It is an arms race, and your family's future is the territory being contested. Sam Altman receives the firing call at 12:18 p.m. By 12:23 p.m., he is already executing a 5-step counteroffensive that most political operatives would spend weeks designing. Step 1. Open a back channel. He calls Greg Brockman, OpenAI's president, and his closest operational ally, who resigns within the hour in solidarity. Step 2. Convert his home into a command center. Within 4 hours, senior employees are physically present, phones charging on every surface, laptops open across the kitchen. Step 3. He stays completely calm. He distributes drinks. He does not raise his voice once. While the board is issuing chaotic public statements with no coherent explanation, Altman is the stillest person in the room. Step 4. He posts a single image on social media. The OpenAI logo as a heart. No words. Within 90 minutes, 700 employees post the identical image. 700 out of 770 total staff. The board has just learned that they fired a man the company will follow into exile.
Step 5, and this is where it becomes surgical. He retains Chris Lehane, a political crisis operative who has managed scandals for presidents. The media narrative shifts overnight. The story's no longer, what did Altman do? The story becomes, who are these unelected board members, and why are they destroying one of humanity's most important companies? The board fired a man for being dishonest, and he responded by rewriting reality faster than they could issue a statement. Which raises the question the board should have asked before they pulled the trigger. What exactly was in that 70-page document?
In 2003, a 16-year-old boy knocked on a professor's door at the University of Toronto. He had read everything Geoffrey Hinton had published on neural networks. He was not enrolled. He was not invited. He simply appeared because the work consumed him entirely. That boy was Ilya Sutskever. Ilya Sutskever is not a political operator. He is the kind of scientist who stands in front of his research team and shouts, literally shouts, "Feel the AGI." He once burned a wooden figurine representing false AI at a company gathering. He believed with the complete sincerity of a person who has spent his entire adult life building something he genuinely fears, that artificial general intelligence was coming and that the wrong hands around it would be catastrophic. So when Sutskever signed his name to a 70-page confidential memorandum and cast a vote to fire the man he had worked beside for years, something specific and documented had broken his threshold. The board obtained court-release testimony. The memorandum has been partially disclosed. Here is what it contained.
Exhibit A. Sam Altman told Mira Murati, OpenAI's chief technology officer, that the board had pre-approved a business arrangement. The board had not. When Murati discovered the discrepancy and confronted it, the board's internal documentation showed a consistent behavioral pattern the memorandum described in clinical language as deliberate misrepresentation. Exhibit B. GPT-4 Turbo. Before its public release, OpenAI conducted capability testing in India without informing the full safety board of the scope of those tests. The safety protocols your family has been told protect, the systems your children use, those protocols were bypassed at the discretion of the executive layer, not the oversight layer. That is not a procedural error. That is a structural subversion of the entire safety architecture. Exhibit C. The Startup Fund. Sam Altman personally owned and controlled a fund valued at $175 million. This fund made investments in companies that had direct commercial relationships with OpenAI. The board was not fully informed of the ownership structure. Your pension fund manager calls this a conflict of interest. In a publicly traded company, regulators call it something that ends careers and begins trials. Exhibit D. Helen Toner. When she published an academic paper that contained mild criticism of OpenAI's safety practices, Altman moved to have her removed from the board. More micropause. Not disagreed with, not rebutted, removed. The person whose sole legal function was to provide independent oversight, he treated her continued presence as a problem requiring a solution.
The board that built the safety switch discovered the CEO had been quietly wiring around it for months, and they had to move fast because Altman was 48 hours from appointing new board members who would have given him the majority. They fired the king, but did they stop him?
Sunday night, November 19th. The board announces an interim CEO, Emmett Shear, the founder of Twitch, a man selected because he was available, not because he was chosen. At 11:53 p.m., 7 minutes before midnight, Sam Altman signs a term sheet with Microsoft. He will run a new AI division. He will take the talent. He will take the momentum. And the board will be left governing a company whose employees have already left in their hearts. 700 employees sign an open letter, not a petition, a direct ultimatum. Reinstate Altman or we resign collectively and follow him to Microsoft. These are not symbolic signatures. These are people with mortgages, with children, with equity packages worth life-changing amounts of money. The board did not build loyalty. Altman did. And loyalty in a company whose only asset is human intelligence is the only currency that matters. Ilya Sutskever breaks. He signs the letter. The man who cast the deciding vote to remove Altman, the man who burned the wooden figurine and shouted about the dangers of AGI, he signs a public letter demanding the return of the man he voted to remove 4 days earlier. He will later say, in a statement that reads like a confession extracted under duress, "I deeply regret my participation in the board's actions." This is the moment to pause, because what you just witnessed is not a corporate drama. It is a documented case study in how institutional safeguards collapse when the economic pressure surrounding them becomes absolute. Every employee who signed that letter knew what was in the memorandum. Some of them helped compile it, and they signed anyway, because their family's financial survival was on the other side of that signature. Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, the man who knows Altman better than almost anyone, once said this about him: if you dropped him by parachute onto an island of cannibals, he would be running the island within a week. The board knew exactly who they were dealing with. They knew his history. Fired from his own startup Looped, departed from Y Combinator under circumstances that were never fully disclosed. They built the safety suite specifically for this scenario, and when they activated it, he disassembled it from the outside in 96 hours.